This video will cover the solutions for numbers 7, 8, 9, and 10, the second section of the April 26th quiz for Algebra 2. If you missed any points on any problem in this section, you will need to watch the portion of the video that covers that problem and make sure you understand what you did incorrectly by copying the entire solution down onto the blank quiz that was provided to you to work on. Once you've done that, you'll be given the opportunity to earn back your points after a little bit more practice. So section 2 here is dealing with solving by factoring. Number 7 is already factored for us. So what we're supposed to do is use the zero factor theorem to figure out what those roots are going to be. So we take each of our factors and we set each factor equal to 0 individually. Because our solutions, one of those two factors has to equal 0. Each of those is a one-step equation. So we would solve those one-step equations by subtracting 7 from each side of the first equation, giving us a solution of x equals -7. And on the second, we would add 3, giving us a solution of x equals 3. Those are both solutions to this equation, and that completes number 7. Number 8 is slightly harder because it is not factored yet, which means our first step is to figure out the two numbers that multiply to 12 and add to -7. That would be -3 and -4. Since there's no number in front of x squared, we can go straight to the factored form. X minus 3 times x minus 4 equals 0. Now it's exactly like number 7. We take each of those factors and we set them equal to 0 because our solutions are the solutions to these two one-step equations. On the first, we would add 3 to each side, giving us a solution of x equals 3. On the second, we would add 4 to each side, giving us a solution of x equals 4. Again, this is a quadratic equation. It has two solutions, so we should have been prepared for that eventuality. On to number 9. Number 9 is trinomial not equal to 1 factoring. Okay, we have a not equal to 1. So instead of looking for factors of 10, we look for factors of 3 times -10, which is -30. We want numbers that multiply to that and add to -1, because this is a -1 here in the middle. That would be -6 and +5. So again, we're not going to go straight to our answer. We're going to split up that middle term into a -6x and a +5x, because -6 plus 5 is equal to -1. Then we are going to group the first two and the second two terms, and we're going to factor out the GCF. So the GCF in the first set of parentheses would be 3x. So we're going to factor out the 3x by dividing each term by 3x, which would leave us with x minus 2, not x squared minus 2, sorry about that, x minus 2. And the second set of parentheses, those are both divisible by 5, so we factor out a 5, which would also leave us with x minus 2. This means our two binomial factors are the binomial x minus 2 and what's in front of the parentheses, 3x plus 5. So that brings us to x minus 2 times 3x plus 5 equals 0. At this point, we do exactly what we did on number 7 and number 8, and we set each of those two factors equal to 0. Now this is a little bit harder than the previous example because the first one isn't. We still add 2 to each side, and we get one solution that's easy. X equals 2 is a solution. Or the other one is a two-step equation. So we start by subtracting 5 from each side, which gives us 3x equals -5. And then we divide by 3. So our second solution is x equals negative 5/3. On number 10, we have a difference of two perfect squares. Again, that should factor into the square root of the first term plus or minus the square root of the second term. By now, we should have seen a couple of those throughout these videos, and we ought to be familiar with the fact that since 121 is 11 squared, that would factor into x plus 11 and x minus 11. Then we're going to split it up. Again, the idea being that each of those solutions, each of those factors, is going to give us a solution. So we have x plus 11 equals 0, or x minus 11 equals 0. So in that first one, we're going to subtract 11 from each side, which would give us x equals negative 11. And in the second equation, we're going to add 11 to each side, which would give us x equals positive 11. Now that's not the only way to solve number 10. Here's another acceptable way to solve it. We can realize that since there's no b value, we can simply add 121 to each side, which would give us x squared equals 121. And then to get x, we could take the square root. In other words, we're using the square root method, which would give us x is either positive or negative 11, which is exactly the same answer we had up above. I don't really care which version you give me, but the top version would mean that you only have to remember how to do one style of solving. That does it for section 2. If you missed any points on the back at LCM, you'll need to watch video for part 3.